Hello, Ring the Bling family. I am so super excited for this episode. We have someone on today that I have looked up to since I started planning weddings, honestly, a little bit before. We have the Indiana State Chair of the Association of Bridal Consultants, the owner of Mon Amie Events, and master wedding planner, and she's going to explain to you what all that entails, Monica Richard.
Hello, friends.
Thank you so much for being with us.
I wouldn't miss it. I'm really honored you asked.
I'm so pumped for this.
I will get a word in edgewise, Monica, and that's fine.
You guys are so nice.
Sharon, I know you've been so excited about this.
have.
I've heard you talk about Monica so much, so I'll let you lead the way.
Well, I actually found Monica when I was deciding it's not fair to just hang up your shingle and say you're a wedding planner. You actually probably need to get some education, and you need to put yourself amongst those people that are leaders in your industry to learn from them. And I'm lucky enough that although most of my weddings are in Louisville, Kentucky, I live in Indiana. So Monica Richard is my state chair and is responsible for planning all of the education for the wedding planners that are part of ABC in Indiana, and I just look up to her so much. The company you have built is just unreal. It's an amazing, amazing company, an accomplishment. Becoming a master wedding planner is a huge accomplishment. I didn't even know what all that entailed till I looked into it. So tell us a little bit about your background. How did weddings find you?
Well, thank you. I'm glad that our rules for ABC are such that it's your home address, not
Me too.
not your point of business, because that means you get to be mine. You're one of my kids, and I appreciate that. Because you're definitely skyrocketing, and I appreciate that. I get to watch you grow. So, I have been a planner for more than 15 years. That's the secret code for a long time in our industry. And I started my career path actually at Disney. That is not to say I was a Disney wedding planner. I want to be very clear about that. But I did start working for Disney right out of college, and it absolutely transformed who I was and instilled in me what I wanted to do for events and what I do on a daily basis with my clients. I use those fundamental key points in every single event I do. I do sprinkle a little pixie dust in all of my events, but I don't put Mickey ears on all of my events. There is a fine line there. And that isn't to say that I brand myself with Minnie Mouse ears, which I know some people do, but there is a little bit of magic in all the events that I do. I became an ABC member about the year 2000. That's kind of shameful that I don't know the exact date, and I apologize for that. And it was in 2005 that I found out what a master bridal consultant was. Now they have changed the name to master wedding planner. And it was because of my mentor, Sasha Souza. And she was young and fiery and this cool redhead from California. And I thought, oh, I want to be just like her. And similar hair color, and here we are. And she was formative in helping teach me about events, about design, about learning who your client was, and a term that really instilled in me something that I try to do, which is called dating your client. And that is not to take off to Jennifer Lopez, who ultimately did date her client, right, in the wedding planner. But what I mean by that is getting to know your client so intimately. You're reading their books. You are watching what they watch. You are traveling where they travel, or if you're not, you're learning about where they travel. You shop where they shop or know where they shop. You know everything about them so intimately that you're reading their mind in such a way that when they walk into the ballroom space or the event room, they think, I never could have imagined that. Well, of course they could have imagined that. It's just not their job to imagine that.
Right.
So you create something beyond their wildest expectations because you know them so intimately. You're dating them. So that is something that she instilled in me really, really early in my career. And I hope made me a better planner than I could have imagined because of it. And therefore a good designer. So through taking classes and experiences and creating different clients, you ultimately take the coursework and the path to become a master wedding planner. And there are approximately 50 in the world, and they do span all over the world.
That is an elite group.
Thank you.
It's a fun group. And I love what you just said, because on wedding day, you have to know them inside out, because you're going to have to answer for them.
Yes.
You know, you're going to have to know, what would Kelsey want me to do? You know, what would she choose? And that was one of my favorite brides, so I would use her name, but
You don't just have one favorite.
I
I've heard you
actually-
talked about many.
I have a ton, but she was the most recent.
Yeah.
Your most recent favorite.
My most recent favorite, for sure. So one of the things I love, in following your career and your weddings and your events, is the entertainment aspect that you bring in is just like 5 notches above anything I've ever seen anywhere else. So when you're planning a wedding, how do you, first of all, figure out what type of entertainment you want? And then how do you take that and do your magic and take it 10 levels up? I've seen you bring in solo performers. I've seen, how do you do that?
Thank you. I do not want a wedding where people leave that they don't think that their time and their investment, both time and financial, was worth it, right? If they could have spent their Saturday night in front of Netflix, then that was not a good investment from anybody, from the family or from the guest. And at the end of our lives, nobody's going to remember the Saturday night in front of Netflix. You think back on vacations, you think back on weddings, you think back on key moments in people's lives. And we do remember weddings. We do. Mm-hmm. And you don't necessarily remember your own. You also remember your friends and families. And often you remember the entertainment that was at a wedding. And it isn't always the band. It could be other moments in the evening, that entertainment. And so my clients and I have big conversations about that, because every client, if I say, tell me 3 things that you want your guest to say about your wedding, they all answer how fun it was. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, tell me anything but that sentence, because they're going to say that.
Every time.
So you cannot answer, my wedding was fun. Mm-hmm. That's too obvious. So tell me 3 things you want your guests to say on Monday morning. As you're leaving on your honeymoon, what do you want to say about your own wedding? And so I want my couples to really, really think deeply about that. And I give them a dossier of questions that they have to answer. And my wedding professional team, so caterer, florist, graphic designer, all of us, dive into it. And they could answer things about their first date. They could answer where they've traveled. But they've got one cool nugget in there that we're going to find. And that ultimately could pull out some cool entertainment. So I had a couple who, we noticed the underlying thread that there was a lot of miniature golf involved with this couple. A lot. And so I went back to the couple after we wove through their questionnaire. We were like, hey, you answered a lot about miniature golf. They're like, well, yeah, we do it a lot more often than we realized, yeah. And I said, so who's the better miniature golfer? And of course, they each answered that they were each the better miniature golfer. So competition was big with this couple and miniature golfing. So we surprised the couple with their own miniature golf course at their wedding. And they didn't even know it was happening. The only person who knew was the mother of the bride. Wow. So, but the guests, the way this event was set up was that dancing was in a different room than dinner. So when they went into dance, that's where the miniature golf course was. And there were not 18 holes. That would have been a little bit much. So the number of holes was actually the flags were the date of the wedding. And obviously you have to have different color balls, so the balls match the colors of the wedding. And I mean, there were just little things.
That is so creative.
People went bananas, but that couple was like, they were so gobsmacked, but actually the guests were like, oh my gosh, you know how many times we've been golfing with them? Like guests,
they put it on.
Guests freaked out over it because they they, of course, have been miniature golfing with them a million times.
And I'm just imagining the photos too.
Oh.
Miniature golfing or wedding dress.
Yes, and guys always make a big deal. I mean, every guy can golf, and it was a great moment. It really wasn't overly cost prohibitive. It was a pretty incredible experience, and everybody was. The one thing we didn't do was have as many balls as guests. Regrettable, honestly, because we knew people would want them. We didn't know that people would want
Everybody would want them.
Everybody would want every single color ball. Yeah, because I should have gotten more golf balls. That is my only regret, honestly. But everybody has their golf club story, you know. And I tell my clients, I'm like, I'm going to find your golf course. I'm going to find what it is. And they're like, oh God, we got to figure out our golf course. And I'm like, you have a golf course. Everybody has one.
Has that one thing that.
Yeah, we can find your one moment to make your form of entertainment. And sometimes I don't find it the first week I'm working with them. That's completely okay. I've got a year or a year and a half to find that. And every wedding has it, because I don't want your wedding to be salad, chicken, and cake. You know, I don't want guests to leave and think, well,
that was a wedding.
That was a wedding and I could have gone on Netflix tonight.
Yeah.
I want it to be something that when guests leave, they don't say, that was so fun. They say, that was so Kelsey, just to take your credit, right? That they leave and they say, this was so fun. I'm glad I spent the money to come. I'm glad I gave up my Saturday night in front of Netflix. This was an incredible evening. It was exactly them. And I'll never forget it. Because that's what entertainment should be. It should be an evening of great entertainment, an evening about them, and an evening that for the rest of your lives you remember. So when I go miniature golfing, of course I think of that.
Absolutely.
I have a pale blue golf ball sitting on my desk with their logo. I always will. This couple is imprinted in my heart forever, and this family means so much to me. Not just because I made a golf course for them,
right?
But for a myriad of reasons. I went to Paris, and it happened to be their honeymoon. Their wedding anniversary. And I snapped a little picture, and they were like, "That's how it happens to be our favorite hotel in the whole world," and it just was. But it was also their wedding anniversary, and I said the only thing missing is a golf course. You know, I just think of them all the time. They are a wonderful, wonderful couple. And there are certain musical acts that I've brought in, and of course, years later, I hear them or see them on TV, and I think, oh, I wonder how that couple is doing. Or, you know, you'll text a picture of somebody, you know, I'm going to their concert, and you think of them or wonder if they're in the crowd. They are. You know, you know it. So,
I think that's one of the things that I appreciate the most about what we do is those relationships that you build. I mean, my husband teases me all the time because post-wedding day, I'm exhausted, but I'm sad because I've just taken these people into my heart for a year, for 18 months, and I'm like, well, I wonder what's going to happen to them Monday. Like, you know, I'm not going to get to talk to them all the time anymore, but I'm far enough in now that I'm starting to get what you're saying, because I do the same thing. You know, I'll drive by a venue and I'll remember that wedding, and I'll, you know, we did a bourbon, hello Kentucky, we did a bourbon tasting there for his bachelorette party, or, you know, and I'm actually starting to get, you know, asked to plan some baby showers and be part of those special events in their life too. So I totally get it, and I love it. What I hear you saying is you get to know that couple so well that you know what their golf course is. You're going to find out what will make that wedding uniquely about them.
Oh, absolutely. That I want to find something that they wouldn't have even thought of, even though, of course, they would have thought of it. They just didn't know it, either that it was possible, or they don't think about weddings that way because they are always a guest. Or they're so myopic on, I need a gown, and we need tuxedos, we need invitations, we need to eat dinner, we need flowers, we need to get transportation. They think like that. They
check the boxes.
Yes. Yeah. They're not thinking, what can we do so differently?
Right.
What can we do to make guests experience something they never have before? They don't know the possibilities are out there in order to think of things in a grand way. I have a client who is obsessed with lipstick. I mean, she just is. Actually has an Instagram account that is nothing but the shade of lipstick that she's wearing that day. And so it's kind of a, that's her Finsta, is her lipstick color. And there is a company that, I don't want to say it does like palm readings, but they do lip readings of your lips. So you put on your lipstick, blot it, and then they read your fortune.
Oh my goodness.
But with your lip print. Does that make sense?
How did you find that?
Actually, I went to an event in Dallas, and they read my lips, and it was the same idea. So
I'm definitely going to need that contact
isn't
information.
it cool?
I'm really excited about that.
It's a really
had you heard of that?
No.
So anyone who knows this bride knows
They'll get it.
They also will have some very matte colors for the men in the crowd, but actually the guys were all over it. So during cocktail hour, we set it up, and people went bananas because they have the teeny tiny lipsticks, like sample sizes, and people were just going crazy, and they were really daring with their lip choices because why not? So then they got, they did their blot, and we had a calligrapher put, your name on it so beautifully, and you got your lip print. It was really cool. So we had our own cool kissing booth. And in the COVID era, to have a kissing booth was kind of exceptionally special because you weren't kissing. You weren't doing that. Yeah.
I love it.
So you've got to think of things that are just very different. Sometimes to be a little bit risque is what people are talking about. So yeah, when you have a kissing booth, when people are like, wait, what is going to happen over there? Yeah, you've got to think of something different. So everyone has their something. Just find out what it is. Get to know your clients on a really intimate level, and it exists. Because sure, you're going to have a great band or you're going to have a fun DJ, but have something a little different. Because both of those scenarios became the favor, right? I mean, sure, the Jordan Almonds of yesteryear are
please.
Right. So what can you do that creates something that is the guest's gift, because they've taken time, they've taken an investment in money to come, probably hotel rooms, travel, and you want to show gratitude that they've come. So give them an experience that is so different. And how many Instagrams, how many stories is that lip print on? But how many people tucked that up in their mirror
and kept it.
Yeah, I have my lip print. Of course I do.
That's super cool.
What I hear her saying is, don't be afraid to embrace your own personality, something that's special. Don't shy away from that to include it in your special day.
Oh, the more you show that, the better. I mean, we've all seen a boxwood wall with a neon sign, right? But if you could do something different to show your intrinsic personality, that is going to be on way more people's minds and show who you are than something that everybody has seen and your 75 sorority sisters and 4 bridesmaids have not done yet.
Well, and speaking as a wedding professional who's at weddings all the time, I even get tired of the cracker box weddings. I'm like, could we please not do this over and over and over again? So I love bringing in that extra element, because you're totally right. And I think sometimes in a couple's head, they're just so ingrained. I have to do this and check that box, and I have to hire a florist and check this box, and transportation and check this box.
I need to have
and to put new boxes in their head that they can check off. I love it. Like just an experience instead of checking off a box.
I know the one thing you've mentioned before. What is it? The bourbon barrels?
I'm done with them.
Every event you felt like they were using those.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to the music and dancing, what do you put any spin on that to make it a Monica wedding? Like how do you
I think entertainment is incredibly important. I will have conversations, you know, I want more than one entertainment act in the night. I grew up in the Sesame Street generation, so entertainment changed every 7 minutes my whole life, right? So your guests feel the same way. And now our clients grew up on iPhone, I generation. You know, they shouldn't be Generation Z, they should be Generation I.
Exactly.
Everything's changing all the time.
And everything's in their hand all the time.
So,
instant. Yeah.
So the entertainment should change instantly all the time. And so if you have one form of entertainment, something is wrong. It has to change. And so your ceremony genre should be likely different than your cocktail genre. And that should also be different than dinner and dancing. So theoretically, we're looking at 4 forms of entertainment.
Right.
If budgets don't allow for that, at least make the sound different for different kinds of music. I know that not every budget can allow for 4 different musical acts.
Right.
I get that. But at least have 4 entirely different sounds. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to qualify that a little bit. But if we have 4 different musical acts, what are we looking for here? And I'll have conversations about, okay, where do you travel? Where are we traveling? What can we pull from? So if they're going to Mexico on their honeymoon, why isn't that cocktail hour a mariachi band? Let's liven it up. Let's have that sound equate to where we're going. You know, we just got married. It's joyful. It's celebratory. Let's pull in that sound and let's have our flavors match the sound. Because your cocktail hour is fun, lively, vibrant, full of flavor, full of sound, full of color. And have your cocktail hour be fun. Because you just got married. Be full of joy.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Because your ceremony, although the most important 20 minutes of your life, there's a solemnity to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the sound often has that tonality.
Yeah.
So then let's kick it up. We just got married. Let's play it up.
And that way you're just kind of amping them up for the reception, for the party to start.
Yes, exactly.
I love that.
So those musical tonalities are very different for that reason. And often live music is not a budget buster. People often think that it is.
I encounter that all the time. And I just, let's look, let's quote it, let's see.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes even just live musicians at a cocktail hour, it can often not be a budget buster. And people so frequently think that it is. Like, why don't we just look at it for your ceremony or your cocktail hour or dinner? Because I think you may be pleasantly surprised. And support live musicians, support local artists. It's really important.
And it adds so much.
It does.
I love live music.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so any one of those 3 points of the night, I think is wildly important. And very often you can get family history involved. You know, a bagpiper adds so much if indoors. I would not necessarily be wildly thrilled with it, but if you're outdoors, a bagpiper can add so much.
I love bagpipes.
I do too.
It's one of my very favorite.
I do too, and I think Irish families are always so proud, and why not? And they don't cost very much, and they add so much to the night. Harpists are lovely, and they're loud. People are always surprised with how the amplification that's not necessary for them. People are like, whoa, I had no idea. And what's great about a harp is you can have classical music or like the Rolling Stones.
Yes.
On a harp, and people are always like, what? I think Bridgerton did bring to light that you can play contemporary music on strings or on harp, where a year and a half ago, I don't know that people knew that. Mm-hmm. And I would always tell my clients, if you're unsure, go to Spotify and type in Vitamin String Quartet, and then their mind was open to that entire genre of music. But Bridgerton did that for so many couples that I don't think were wildly aware of that before.
There's a trio that I've used several times. They're called Electria. And it's 3, like you just said, redheaded fiery ladies.
Gotta love us.
And it's an electric string trio. And they can play anything.
Yes.
ZZ Top, anything you want them to play, they can play it. And I usually will have them do ceremony. And again, that solemn, very, serious tone. then we send them to cocktail hour and let them open it up.
Right.
And it's so fun.
I love when you have a couple who does contemporary music for a ceremony and the guests are like, did I just hear yellow? I'm like, you sure did. Or the dad is like, wait, we're walking down the aisle, the sweet child of mine. I'm like, you are. Your kid is awesome.
You can actually see guests too. I've been at a ceremony and seen guests because they're expecting the very traditional, and they're listening to what we would call, instrumental classical music, and then they're like, whoa, I know that song.
Yes.
You can see their faces kind of, I always love when that happens.
Yes, yeah, but like when flower girls walk down the aisle too.
Yeah.
Any contemporary music, it's very, very cool.
I love that.
We're bubble girls, right?
Yeah, I had a 98-year-old Nana that was my flower girl, and we brought her down to Here Comes the Sun.
I love that.
And it was a showstopper.
Of course it is.
I mean, people stood up and clapped.
Yes.
It was the best. Yeah, and I have her picture on my desk because she makes me happy when I see her.
And she makes me happy here.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the picture. You'll love it. So I know when you use a band, because we talked about this prior, when you use a band, you also use a DJ.
Often I do, not exclusively.
Okay.
It is client driven, and there are some bands that now include DJs for a fusion sound. They are not as popular in the Midwest. So some,
Yeah,
we're off,
that, yeah.
so we're off. They often I bring them out of Miami, but sometimes I will have a DJ, and the DJs are club style, for lack of a better description. They mix. There are a couple of great club DJs in our area, but we will do that for band breaks or to do perhaps later in the evening. Like, I don't want to call them after parties because we're still in the same space, but that duo component, or because it's a completely different sound. Bands are covered and these are not. So sometimes we'll have joint nights.
Yeah, because I love using a band. I love it. But when they do take a break, I've had the experience where they kind of plug and play, like, something, a pre-made playlist or something. And you can see the dance floor kind of change because the vibe's just not there. So I think that's super smart to have somebody there to start mixing and keep that dance floor going. Yeah, and still give your musicians a break.
It's good. Yeah, some bands, that there's going to be a break happening, and so to have that option works.
Yeah, and I know you've brought in solo performers too. Lindsay Sterling,
Yes, yeah, and during the absolute, pardon me, height of COVID, looking back, you're like, wow, why did we do that? What were we thinking? It was pre-vaccine. To be very clear, there was a lot of testing and a lot of safety conversation and precautions that took place. It was at a time where things were outdoors, and this family was incredibly respectful and cautionary about everything that was happening. And with an 8-week planning period.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a very short-term planning process from engagement to wedding, in part because of COVID. Lindsay's wedding, Lindsay's tour was canceled, and the bride's favorite artist is Lindsay Sterling. And she was disappointed that the tour was canceled. And the groom said, well, never say never. Let's see what's what. And so the calls were made, and Lindsay was willing, in large part because of all the safety precautions that were placed, to do a one-night-only tour, basically. And so there it was in the backyard of this wonderful family.
That's amazing.
It was really remarkable for a lot of reasons, including the fact that this was the height of COVID. This was when people were still weekly putting in unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
And every single person working was from Indiana. That was really, really important to the family, to have local professionals working. So with the exception of Lindsay's band, that was entirely true. All of the roadies were local sound and tech crew, because everybody who would have been on the road with their bands couldn't. Yeah. So it was all local, all the staging, techs, everybody. And and everybody's safety was really, really paramount. And she came and did the show, but this was not my first national act. It was just the first one with a short window and in the height of a pandemic. So when she came back and did the tour this year, we got to see the whole show again with all the bridesmaids and the photographer.
How fun!
And it was very cool because there were things that we knew she was almost practicing, you know, and had pulled the plug on and had not done it in a full costumes. And to see her real show with rigging and how magnificent with all of the dancers and full costuming, and it was very special because in real costuming she changes costumes about 8 or 9 times, and in a backyard only 2 or 3, you know? And only. And,
I remember seeing that on your Instagram because I love her as well. And I was like, how did Monica do that?
Not a lot of sleep. It's funny, the Calm app, are you familiar with that?
Oh, yes.
I think a lot of people became very intimate with the Calm app during the height of COVID.
Absolutely.
And she downloaded onto the Calm app during that time, like summer of 2020. And it was a joke that I was literally hearing Lindsay in my sleep. That was the joke. And the bride was like, did you know Lindsay's on the Calm app? I'm like, I do now. I hear her even in my sleep. And so I was Lindsay 24/7 that time, you know, and I got to know her pretty well. And I wasn't very familiar with her because you either knew her or you don't. I mean,
Right.
That's how it was. And now I hear her everywhere, and she definitely is quite special to me. But I think the moment that I will never, ever forget from that entire process is, I'll probably get emotional telling it. She thanked the family and said it was her only show for the whole year and how much it meant to her.
Wow.
And she played Hallelujah. And that Christmas, she did do a show on NBC, and she played Hallelujah. And I stopped, like right in the middle of my kitchen when I heard it,
Yeah.
and I thought she had to practice it with her band because they hadn't been together. And
Oh my
it meant
goodness.
so much.
All
to
the
her.
feels.
Yeah.
All the feels.
It was so hauntingly beautiful to hear it in live with, I don't know, 100 people, and to hear her talk about it. And then there she is playing it a few months later. It was very raw. And every time I hear the song, whether it's her or not, I am taken right back to that backyard.
And that's what it means. That's what creating those moments means.
I know every guest feels
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
There were people that I knew at that wedding who I just happened to have known, like outside, and they feel the same way about that night.
And that's when you know you've hit it.
Mm-hmm.
You create those moments.
It was on a place in our city called Geist Reservoir, and there were people on the water who heard it, who texted and were like, if this wasn't your wedding, I don't care. I think it was. And that was the most beautiful concert. Thank you for putting on a concert our whole city could hear tonight, because you could hear it. And it was a very special night.
Wow.
Our city needed it, honestly. They really did. It was a time that we needed it.
I think we all needed something like that.
At that time, we
Yeah,
did. We really
for
did.
sure. For sure.
I'm just sitting here listening to this, and to think about what we've been through and where we are now, it just a whole new appreciation. I know so many people missed so many things about events. Not that you wanted to take them for granted, not anything like that, but that pause for a lot of professionals, a lot of couples, families, everybody, really changed everyone, whether you're in the event business or not. And I really think it also gives a new appreciation to be able to celebrate.
Yes.
and your all's clients do become family.
Oh my
And
gosh.
the stories and everything, it's just a whole new appreciation for two families coming together on that wedding day, and just all the feels of all of that. I think it's just hopefully to say we are in a new light, or whatever the right wording is to use.
I couldn't agree more. I keep telling my clients this is the year of yes. Our RSVP counts are very high. People are so ready to celebrate. They are so ready to be together again. I said at the beginning that I've been doing this for more than 15 years. Well, I will reveal I had a wedding in the immediacy after 9/11. So do some math. You can now figure out how long I've been doing this. And I will never forget the call I got from the father of the family. Right, 9/11 happened on a Tuesday, so clearly there was a lot of, we don't know what's going to happen on Saturday.
Right.
And I said, well, whatever happens, we will figure this out. And people who had said no to his wedding for that Saturday had to call and decide that they could come because the planes that they were going to be on were all grounded. So his numbers went up because people decided we have to be there. Whatever reason we couldn't have come is now less important, and we're going to be there. That is exactly what is happening again. It's the year of yes. Everyone wants to come to be with you, to celebrate, and to be part of your day. It's the year of yes. And so because it's the year of yes, we need to find what, obviously the two families coming together is important, but to share in that joy is more than just a DJ or more than just a band. Share that experience with them in some way. I am not saying everyone has to go out and find some national recording artist or a lip print artist, but find something that makes your wedding so unique and special, because in the year that is the most weddings of all time, what is going to make your celebration stand out? Because they're going to 75 weddings this year in a year of only 52 Saturday nights. What will make your yes compelling? Because they want to be with you. They want to share your joy. So let's make it exceptional.
Oh my gosh, I was going to ask her to wrap this up with what one tip would you give to a couple that has just started planning, but that's it. I mean, there's the tip for sure. Make it about you, make it unique, and give your guests an experience.
Find your golf course.
Not just a chicken.
No salad, chicken, and cake. Find your golf course. And if your budget is only salad, chicken, and cake, that's okay, but find your golf course.
Right. And there's a ton of things that you can do to pull in that uniqueness and make it about the couple without spending a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, absolutely. I love it. I love it.
I just keep sitting here thinking about a season of change. That is, when you were talking about that, how the seasons change. There's this renewed energy, and just what you said, what I've witnessed over the past few months at some events that I've been at, it's almost like this renewed energy with wedding professionals. And like you mentioned, being there celebrating and a joyous occasion all together.
I know during COVID, I missed happy.
Mm-hmm.
We are so blessed that we are trusted. I mean, yes, it's a huge responsibility, but how blessed are we that we get to take part in one of the most special, joyous days of someone's life. And I missed it. I mean, I grieved weddings. I really, really did. And I am happy to be back out there, and I'll eat my salad and my chicken and find my golf course, because I am happy to be back out there.
You'll even do a lip print.
That sounds really fun to do. I would like to do that.
This company does some really neat things.
Yeah,
we will definitely find out who that company is and make sure we share it in the show notes. I'm sure Monica.
I'm wondering how many of my brides now are going to be texting me that they want a lip print reader.
You got to be first on the scene now, and you don't want to be the second.
No way.
I was like, they just did that.
I actually have someone in mind that would love it. So
I love the whole conversation about entertainment, because I think sometimes couples out there, whether you're working with a wedding planner or not, entertainment, you may have thought when we started this episode, we were going to talk about DJs or bands. and you've shed light on a whole world of opportunities, almost like you're at Disney. There's a world of opportunities.
I've known Monica long enough that I knew we were going to way surpass DJs and bands.
Well,
that's what she's known for. It's her creative design and planning. Yeah.
Thank you so much for.
I know you're
I
crazy
hope you
busy.
have me back.
Oh, we would love to have you back.
Of course, I still see the miniature golf in my head from where she was talking about that story, and I cannot wait to hear feedback from our audience. What is your golf course? What are you doing unique with your wedding day or your reception or ceremony? I know we'd love to hear from.
Yeah, so guys, hop on. Tell us after listening to this what you're thinking about. What's your golf course? What's your niche that you're going to lock in on for that wedding? And as always, if you really, really enjoyed what you heard, hop on and leave a glowing 5-star review.
Monica, thank you so much for taking time to be a guest. Thank you for everything that you've openly shared with all of our listeners. We greatly appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for always sharing not only so much of your knowledge, but your heart with all of the members of the ABC, not only in Indiana, woohoo, shout out Hoosiers, but also nationwide, worldwide. You share that knowledge and that heart. And personally, I appreciate it very much, and I know everyone else does too.
Don't move out of the state of Indiana.
I'm not going anywhere.
They can't change the rules.
I never even said anything, but Sharon, that made me think about the first time that I had the opportunity to meet Monica in person was at the ABC National Convention last year, which was here. We haven't even said anything, but we're out of the studio.
We are.
We are in West Baden, so
Indiana.
you can in Indiana, of course. So if you are listening to this podcast and you want to see us, you can always go to our YouTube channel. But my first impression of Monica at that convention, when I spoke to her on the phone even before it, I could tell how important that event was. And it wasn't a client, it wasn't a wedding. She was actually part of an event, putting an event together for other wedding professionals. And even before I met you in person, I could feel the importance, the inclusion, that you wanted us to be part of that event. But I could just tell that you were passionate about giving and helping others. And that was my first impression. And meeting you in person at that event, it just compounded what I originally thought when I talked to you on the phone. So to also say and share the same that Sharon mentioned, thank you for everything that you do to give back to other wedding professionals and couples.
Well, thank you. ABC means a lot to me, and I want couples nationwide to get good planners and good professionals, because we are all a service to our couples in the end. So that's important to me.
100%.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and we cannot wait to hear your feedback. So thanks again, Monica, and thanks everyone for listening. Until next time, everyone, see ya.